guys, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Shelf. I am your host, Ronin Time HD, and this week, what we found off the shelf was...
Jesus, Grandpa, what did you read me this thing for?
Well, who says life is fair? Where is that written? Fencing, fighting, chases, escapes, giants, monsters, torture, revenge, true love, miracles.
The Princess Bride, released in 1987, directed by the late, great Rob Reiner, who recently passed away. This video is a tribute to him. Sorry for being a little late on that. It's just time frames and such. But this film is starring Cary Elwes, I believe I'm saying that properly, Andre the Giant, the legend, the absolute icon, also, as well as Mandy Patinkin, Robin Wright, and also featuring Wallace Shawn, who is his performance is absolutely inconceivable, if that's a good way to put it. Either way, this film is a, action-adventure comedy, right? And I will say this movie is an absolute classic, right? And I will say, right off the bat, I think this film is just incredibly entertaining. And while I do think that it is generally more comedy than it is action, and while it is certainly a lot of adventure, right, there is a lot of adventure in this action-adventure film, even though action is not the focus, I do think it is very, very fun whenever there is action. But they always usually find some way to incorporate action in this, or not, they incorporate comedy. Of course, they're incorporating action into an action-adventure film. They're incorporating comedy into the action. And I think a good example of this is at the beginning of the film, where Montoya and the Dread Pirate Roberts meet for the first time, and at first, they're very evenly matched, right? They're, fencing and doing all cool, flips and shit, and they're going around doing all this fancy shit, and they're kind of, bantering at the same time while they're doing it. It's very charming, very, very fun, very nice dialogue, very nice back and forth, but eventually Montoya, I guess halfway through their battle, for their duel, goes, "There's something I haven't told you. And it's that I'm not left-handed." And then he switches hands, and then they start fencing again, and Montoya now has the lead, right now, and he starts kind of, I guess, dominating the duel. But then, a little ways after that, the Dread Pirate Roberts goes, "Well, there's something I haven't told you, and that's I am not left-handed." And then they're evenly matched again, and it's a lot like that, And I very much enjoy that, because not only was the action very good and very enjoyable, it's also, as I said, the banter and the comedy of it was also very entertaining. There's maybe not just comedy, but I guess it would be incorporated with comedy, but it's silliness. Just an inherent silliness that just makes everything so fun and entertaining. It's just so, I guess, yeah, those are the words, entertaining and fun. Those are the things, the silliness of it. And I guess maybe another good example of, I guess, comedy being injected, or silliness being injected into good action sequences or dramatic sequences, being injected well. And it was near the end of the film when Montoya, obviously everybody, if you know about The Princess Bride, Montoya's whole goal, the whole film, is to get revenge on the man who killed his father, right? That's his whole goal, is to get revenge. His whole life is vengeance, right? Ever since his father was murdered by the hands of Count Rugen, who had 6 fingers, right, on his right hand, which they don't ever explain, but it's just how he knows. It's how he's gonna know about the guy that he has to kill to get vengeance. So, at the end, he finally gets face-to-face with him, right? And it's super dramatic, and he gets out his sword, and there's a close-up on him, and he says his line. He says something like, "I am whatever Montoya, and you killed my father, prepare to die," right? The whole thing, the whole what is it? The whole kip and shaboodle? Is that the phrase? Shit, I probably didn't say that right. You get what I mean, okay? You get what I mean. Either way, he says the whole shebang. And it's super dramatic. And then Count Rugen, I believe that's how you say his name, he gets his sword out and it looks like they're about to duel. And then Count Rugen just runs away, right? And then he chases him down the hall and he's trying, and then he locks the door behind him. And then, so it's serious, then funny, and silly. And then there's still some silliness because Andre the Giant is there. And since they had recently just revived Wesley, who was the Dread Pirate Roberts, because it's like a title inherited down from other people, and he was tortured to death, and they had just recently revived him. Billy Crystal recently had just revived him. That's a whole thing. And Andre was like carrying him because he'd just been dead, right? So he's weak. It's like being in a coma, right? He was really weak. He could barely walk. So Andre was carrying him around because he's a big, strong man. But then he was like, get over here, Andre. I need you to break down this door. I need to get to him. He's getting away. So Andre's like, stay here for a minute. And he like wraps his arms around, wraps Wesley's arms around this like knight in shining armor. It's kind of funny. And then he walks over and he just kind of nonchalantly walks over to the door. And he's like, not Andre, it's, what was it? Montoya. Yeah, sorry. I almost forgot. Montoya's like trying really hard to shoulder bash open the door, right? He's like fucking running as fast and as hard as he can into the door, and it's not even budging. But then Andre just walks over and he just goes, and it immediately falls off. And the whole film is like that, right? It's just very, very silly and fun, I guess, is that. But then when he gets the confrontation with Count Rugen, then it goes back to serious, and it's a very serious duel where he finally gets his vengeance and vanquishes the evil torturer Count Rugen, and also father murderer and just general menace. He vanquishes his arch nemesis. I do like how the film knows when to be serious and knows when to be silly, because even when he's fighting him, not from what I can recall, there isn't that much like silliness or jokes in the final duel. It's taken very straight, which it should be, right? I mean, obviously the whole time he'd been trying to get his vengeance, and you should take it seriously because it's a serious thing. He murdered his father, it should be taken serious. But I still can't get over how, so whenever Andre's talking, it sounds like he's talking out of like a voice modulator, but that's just because that's just how he sounds, right? He literally sounds like a giant from Myth, right? He's got like that really deep, and I guess it would sound like kind of commanding, intimidating voice. But he's just like it's a very good juxtaposition in the movie because he's very kind and gentle, and he's very honorable, and he's like, he can't really control his strength sometimes, and he's a nice guy in real life and in the movie, right? So I guess obviously it would be a real life and fictional juxtaposition at the same time. But I do like that. And I think also, one thing, I have been complimenting the actors and all of that, but I also want to compliment Rob Reiner's directing. Obviously, I think without Rob Reiner, I don't think this film would have been as silly or as charming as it could have been. I mean, I did research, and apparently they had been trying to make a film adaptation of this film because it was based on a book. If you didn't already know, it was based on a book. They had been trying since the year the book came out, and they couldn't do it, and they couldn't do it, and they couldn't do it until Rob Reiner came along and he managed to make it work, right? And I think without his directing, we wouldn't have gotten iconic line deliveries, like inconceivable. We wouldn't have gotten as many charming things. I guess the film wouldn't have been as charming and it wouldn't have been as enjoyable without Rob Reiner's directing, is basically what I'm trying to say. And I very much appreciate him for that. And I think we should all take some appreciation from him for that, because it's a very enjoyable film. And I think honestly, the whole film is like that, right? The whole film is like that. Yeah, it's just a very charming, fun, silly time, I guess is a good way to put it. So, since it's a book in real life, in the movie, there is like this grandfather, or this grandpa that's reading the book to his grandson, right? And that's the narration of the whole movie, is like him reading it to the grandson. And I think it's also that's also very entertaining, because like every now and again there will be like interruptions where the kid's like, oh, that's gross, or that's stupid, or this doesn't make sense, or this or that, where he'll like, jump in with this and that. And I think that's entertaining. No, yeah, it's just entertaining, and it's a nice little break sometimes from the action, or a break from what's going on. It's a very nice I guess, this and that. So I think the narration is a nice way to tell the story, right? Because I think it kind of, obviously it makes it seem like the story itself is like, a story within a story, but I think it's also like maybe like a cozier way to tell the story. Because maybe, since if you're watching the film for the first time, it's like you're like the kid, like getting tucked in, listening to the story while you go to bed. Like, it's a nice cozy feeling, right? I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I very much like that. I enjoyed this film, and would I recommend it? Yeah, I think, yeah, for sure. I would absolutely recommend this film. Obviously, if you want to watch it to pay tribute to the late, great Rob Reiner, I think this is a good film to pick. While he has many great films that you could watch, this is, I think, up there as one of his best. So I think you could definitely watch this as a tribute, or even if you just feel like watching it, or if this review enticed you to watch it, I do think I would highly recommend it under any of those circumstances, or just because it's a good movie. And with that being said, what would I rate this film? I think I would rate it an 8.5 out of 10. And, yeah, I think I've said what I need to say. Thank you so much, peace. So, guys, I hope you like this video. Share with your friends, subscribe, turn those notifications on, comment down below on how much you liked it. And I've been Reiner HD, off to fall victim to one of the classic blunders. I died, get it? Because I got poisoned, I died. Because Wallace Shawn died in the movie, because he's like, haha, you fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders. You should have known never to, like, I guess, held a bet of death with a Sicilian. No, you had a duel of death with a Sicilian. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it had something to do with him being Sicilian and not going to have a to the death thing with a Sicilian. I think that's what he said. I don't know, it was still entertaining. So I was watching this movie, right? And there's a scene where Andre has, like, he's, like, holding everybody. Like, everybody's, like, grabbing onto him, and he's climbing up a rope to go up, like, a mountain. And Wallace Shawn is, like, in front of him, right? And Wallace Shawn, this is, like, a behind-the-scenes thing, he was horrified of heights, right? He was deathly afraid of it. And he said they were like 2 inches off the ground and he was going to pass out, right? He was scared that he was going to ruin the scene. But Andre, literally, like the gentle giant that he is, he just like petted him like a dog and said, it's going to be okay. I'll be there for you. You're going to be okay. And he did that a couple times, and Wallace was completely fine. He was completely fine after that, and the scene went as well as it did. And that's all because of Andre, because he's just even though he seems like he'd be intimidating, he really wasn't. And I think that's just really nice. But it's also kind of amusing at the same time, because he's so giant and Wallace Shawn is so small, and he literally treated him like, like a scared animal. It's like, it's okay. It'll be okay. I'm there for you. I don't know. It's just, it's nice because he was just comforting him, but it's also kind of amusing.